Hello, Lassi Heininen. You are a political scientist and professor. You are also the editor of the Arctic Yearbook and the creator of the Calotte Academy. Today, I have one leading question for you, which is, in the European North, we often face the dilemma of balancing the protection of fragile Arctic ecosystems with the advancement of economic opportunities, such as mining, shipping, or energy projects. From your perspective, how can states and the Arctic Council help navigate this tension in a constructive way?
Thank you for a very relevant question. My first reaction is in a way that actually can we reconcile economic activities and environmental protection? If we or should we be able to choose to prioritize which one? And I think that we are in that moment now that more and more we have to prioritize. We cannot have the both. But your question it would be, and it is already and would be even more relevant, in spite of the wars, in spite of continuing warfare, like in the Middle East, or rivalries between great powers, which can be taken even as substitutes for the climate crisis or the ecological catastrophe. So this is very much the issue what we are facing. And I'm afraid, you mentioned states and the Arctic Council, I'm afraid that none of those are prepared for that. It's not because there wouldn't be knowledge. There is knowledge enough. I mean, the scientific community has done very well within the last few decades. So we know. We know what causes, what is the main cause for climate change, for example, global warming. And we know that in the Arctic you have the very critical situation when it's warming up 3 to 4, or someone are saying even 5 times faster than the rest of the world. But simply, I mean, to me, like I'm a political scientist. So is that states are not able to solve this problem, or they don't dare to put the question like that we should solve the problem now. And we cannot wait. We have waited for too long already. So, and behind there is that in a way that one of my colleagues wrote already about 30 years ago, that the unified state system is simply not capable to manage global environmental problems or challenges like the climate crisis. And now, about 30 years later, we know that is very true. So there is this political inability to do the hard decisions. Okay, so you mentioned the Arctic. And of course, the Arctic is very much up there. Because it is with rich resources, and because it is hit by climate change, and of course these together and still increasing utilization of resources are making so-called Arctic paradox, which is something what we have been speaking for the last 10, 15, almost 20 years. And so that is a perfect area to study this. But it is also that there is the problem that states are controlling the area. So there is state sovereignty. And then although there is Arctic Council is not capable, or it doesn't have a mandate for more strict environmental regulations. And so we have some sort of dilemma here. And at the same time, when I'm among the first ones to say that I support very much Arctic Council, it's a success story. But it is from the very beginning. It has been for policy shaping, and for this kind of platform where you are discussing about the issues, where you are like it started by cooperation for environmental protection. But even then, it didn't have a mandate for more strict regulations. And the dilemma, or should I say the paradox, another paradox here is that the Arctic states, including the USA and the Russian Federation, would have mandate, would have a legitimacy to make the decisions today for more environmentally more strict regulations to limit utilization of resources. But they don't do that. And then of course we will come to that question, that why not? If there is a knowledge for that, if they have the legitimacy for that, if they have even the resources for that. So it would be very easy actually, and it wouldn't take so much time. So okay, we come. So in theory, this is in theory, of course, but the practice is like so often, theory versus practice. So in practice, no, it will not happen. And one reason is that there are among 8 Arctic states, 4 are petroleum states: Canada, Norway, Russia, the USA. So it is absolutely against their interests to do. And then the leftovers, Finland, Iceland, Sweden, and Kingdom of Denmark, they don't dare even to propose that, because there are common interests. And because, like, according to my theory, and this is something what we did a few years ago in our research project at IASA, International Institute for Applied System Analysis. So the overall trend number 1 was that there is this ambivalence or paradox when you try to search for a balance between economic activities and environmental protection. And that is simply because the Arctic states, they don't dare to use their power. And why not? Well, world is run by oil. Because I mean, in the Arctic, I mean, what is utilized the most? It's oil and gas. And so the world is run by oil still. I mean, think about war machine. And there are many wars, like I said. I mean, it cannot run without oil. And so on. So this is one reason. And then another is exactly the fact that there are 4 petroleum states. And okay, the third reason is that like Russia, Norway, I mean, they have state-owned enterprises. I mean, these oil companies. So they are lobbies. They are very strong lobbies within these states. It's like a state in a state. And Norway is a democracy, etc. No, they don't do that. They don't. It's not even put that question that why not ban offshore oil drilling, and that would be a perfect starter. But no, they will not do that. And one more reason is today, and this is dealing with Europe or the world in general, is that green transition is being postponed. I mean, like we have seen. I mean, the European Union was a master in that class for environmental protection, for mitigation of climate change. Excellent work earlier and excellent programs. But no, implementation is not there.
Mm.
So who are those who are really demanding that? Well, I mean, there are NGOs, environmental and other movements. There are indigenous peoples and the scientific community. But even scientific communities is making an agenda for COPs, which is under the auspices of the United Nations. But in recent COPs, they are steps backwards. I mean, when we think about that, what are the real actions to mitigate climate change? Has not simply happening. So this is very much the situation where we are just now.
Wow, thank you for a very complete answer, especially the gap between theory and practice and the importance also of, taking into account the interests of states. And so when you look at how these dilemmas are handled, do you think there are some approaches or mechanisms that you could see as effective in creating dialogue and compromise between different interests? So we talked about the state's interests, the company interests, but are there any mechanisms in place also to include the interests of local communities, such as, but not limited to, indigenous peoples? Or industries, not only the oil ones, but also the fisheries industry, for example, local fisheries, small scale industries. So do you see any mechanisms for dialogue there?
Mm. Well, yeah, and absolutely, what is very much needed, and very much in the very beginning is a dialogue between the actors, between the parties. But one problem is that are states really ready to recognize like people as actors or indigenous peoples? If we think about the Arctic, I mean, the Arctic Council, like I mentioned, it is for policy shaping, and it has been excellent for that. And it includes indigenous peoples. And you have expertise in the working groups of the council. And again, I mean, these reports are excellent. And based on these reports, there are already few legally binding agreements negotiated between the Arctic states under the auspices of the council. But again, these legally binding agreements are not for too strict utilization of resources. They are for prevention, they are for safety, etc., etc. And I mean, but the Arctic Council would be possible if the Arctic states would a little bit broaden the mandate. And like, for example, what is missing there is local governments, municipal governments, provincial, regional governments. They are excluded totally. So where their voices have been heard. I am afraid that only nationally or locally, not internationally or in the pan-Arctic context, and certainly not globally. So this is one problem. But again, I mean, then of course we have the United Nations, like I said, COPs, which should be for that, and there have been NGOs from the very beginning, at least as observers. So if they are there present in these conferences, then it would be easily to have them become involved in discussions, etc. So another mechanism what we have, and we have experiences, particularly in North America, is public hearings or town hall meetings. And like when I was involved in the Arctic Human Development Report number 1, and I organized few town hall meetings, both in the European Arctic as a part of the Calotte Academy, and also in North America, Alaska, as part of the North Research Forum earlier. And so this is, but I have not seen that mechanism so much used recently. for example, in Europe, it's not that much used. So it is very well known. It has been tested. It could be used more. So again, we are coming to that. Hitting that wall that states are not willing to take these other actors involved in. And one more reason is because of the wars and because of the tension, geopolitical tension, what we have in Europe, globally, etc. Less so in the Arctic, because I would like to remind you, there are no armed conflicts in the Arctic. But I mean, this mechanism this pressure is causing that situation that national security is becoming so important, and that is almost an excuse for whatever, because of we do this only because of national security, and here people are out. The security establishment in each country controls that discourse, and so that the situation is, after the Russian invasion of Ukraine, February 2022, even worse by that way. That and like that kind of concept, security concept called comprehensive security, has been there for a few decades, and it has been broadly discussed. So, and that includes people as actors. So I think, I mean, as a summary to your question, I mean, there are mechanisms, there are platforms, there are experiences, but they are not broadly used.
Well, that is a great summary of a great question, of course. And so we've learned that there are mechanisms for dialogue, but they are not operationalized in the Arctic. And I imagine that it's the same case in other parts of the world and also in broader Europe. So if we take a step back and if we look at Europe from the lens of the North, what lessons do you think Europe as a whole can draw from the Arctic experience about this balance between sustainability and development as Europe is thinking about its future, but at the same time when this thinking is hampered by ongoing conflicts and other interests?
I think that there are a few lessons to learn for Europe, and one thing is one of those, or maybe the most important, is that the environment matters. And I mean, because I mean the Arctic, I mean there are so many tourists nowadays in the Arctic because there is a nature nearby. I mean, like they feel. Of course, that is global. Everywhere is a nature. If you would like to find it, it is there. But I mean, maybe they think that because of it's so exotic for them, coming from the lower latitudes, etc., that it is something special. Well, in a way, it's not maybe something special, but it's something different, yes. But the basic idea is the same. So you should respect nature, because the environment, including a nature, is the material basis for human existence. And because of human existence, it is put into a danger to be destroyed. And so, I mean, to me, I mean, if we will lose a nature, we will lose everything. And so that this is so crucial, but you have to have respect. I mean, I have learned from indigenous peoples, very much indigenous peoples living in the Arctic, that what does it mean to respect the nature? It means to utilize the nature, yes, but always to be very careful, not to go beyond carrying capacity, and so on, and be there, and enjoy yourself, and then respect that, and understand one thing, which is not it's not a material thing, it's immaterial thing, and it is the beauty of a nature. I mean, can we live without that? I don't think so. As human beings, we cannot, and we should not even try. So yeah, I mean, this is, and then another thing which is an achievement. Like I said earlier, there are no armed conflicts. There have not been armed conflicts since in the Arctic. I mean, since the end of the Cold War. So how come now the Arctic cooperation has been continued in the context of the Arctic Council? Even the Russian Federation is one of the Arctic states, and then the rest are NATO member states nowadays. And there is a war in Ukraine, so they are rivals there. They are, even, you can call them even enemies in that war. But however, they will continue the cooperation. They don't want to ruin the Arctic Council as a joint platform, because they managed to build geopolitical stability, and that stability is so beneficial for all parties. And so Europe could learn that. I mean, after the end of the Cold War, yes, there was a momentum when, in a way, that there is some kind of harmony. Well, never it has been a harmony. That's not the point. The point is to find common interests and then cooperate, because that will benefit all. And so that this is, in a way, both learned lessons are rather simple, but you have to understand them and their value, and then to implement them.
All right, so 2 lessons. Thank you for this incredibly also informed questions where answer when you came back to the Arctic, to Europe, then to the Arctic again. And yeah, with 2 rather simple lessons to respect the nature and also to try to find a common interest. And that common interest could be nature too. In 2020, in the Arctic Yearbook, of which you are the editor as well, and you wrote that the Arctic is both a linchpin and a laboratory of climate change together. So in the editorial, in the abstract of this Arctic Yearbook with Heather Extemperot and Justin Barnes. And from this introduction, I have one question actually. Do you see the North as a kind of laboratory also for Europe's future, where the choice that we make today about the environment and the economy could influence the direction of the continent as a whole?
Yeah, that phrase the Arctic as a laboratory, it has been used. It's not our intervention. It has been used already earlier, but I mean, I have used that, but I have also put after one of my indigenous friends reminded me that you call the Arctic as a laboratory, but we don't want to live in a laboratory. I said, okay. Message is well taken. So that what about if we call the Arctic as a workshop where we can do together things? Then she said that, oh, much better. So but all in all, the idea here is that we can learn so much from the Arctic and the experiences, which already I partly was discussing earlier. So that and why so? And like I'm a scholar of international relations, and I have applied the Arctic for that purpose as a case study, saying that we can study and analyze phenomena in the Arctic. That is some kind of microcosmos, because the Arctic is actually global, and this is not understood well yet. Look the maps, but look the right map, which is like a globe. Then you have the Arctic on the top of that, connecting all the continents, connecting to the major oceans of the world. And so it's global by nature. So that's why you can use that as a microcosmos of international relations. And then one more reason, that because indigenous peoples have been playing and play so important role there. You have even that narrative or discourse of international relations, which is not mainstream, recognizing non-state as real actors. And it can be used as a case study to study security, exactly this comprehensive security, what I said, including environmental security and human security. And again, like indigenous peoples, there are clever individuals among them who have been starting to do research. And I have learned a lot from one of my colleagues, then a chief, who wrote an article on food security, food safety, already 20 years ago. Excellent article describing that it is not lack of food supplies, it is lack of traditional diet because of climate change. Because climate change, global warming is threatening an access into traditional diet. And so on. So these are issues where we can learn. I mean, and I'm only talking about my fields, like international relations, geopolitics, security studies. But then there are many other fields, starting from climate sciences and going to anthropology, etc., where we can use and learn from the Arctic. So yes, but we have to, at the same time, not only look that as an object, but recognize the actors of the region as subjects.
Yes, and recognize that the Arctic is not only a workshop, but also a home to many people and living entities in general. So thank you also for this very complete answer and for all the answers you have provided during this interview. It is now finished, but I want to ask you, do you have a final word that you would like to say to summarize all that you have said and your philosophy on these topics?
Well, thank you for your excellent questions. Well, I really would like to emphasize this importance of nature, of the environment. Like so simple, the environment matters. I mean, if we will not remember this, and again, I mean implement it, then we are in a trouble. But we can still turn the currency of our policies, but it is hard work. So here I would encourage individual citizens to put pressure on decision makers. Thank you.
Perfect. So a note of hope for the end. Thank you as well for, again, your incredible answers, and see you another time.